You know, I went into Sticker Star with high hopes and was let down a lot. I went into Color Splash hopeful that it would be like a redemption for the series, and it also let me down. So for Origami King, I tried a new tactic. I went in with low expectations. I expected crap, and you know what? I wasn't let down. Paper Mario fans, including myself, can be pretty stubborn. We want the raw, turn-based RPG gameplay of the original two games. Sticker Star was a slap to the face of this combat system, Color Splash was a kick to the nuts, and then Origami King was just a final curb stomp that all but killed off this old-school JRPG system. It's like eating the most delicious burger at your favorite restaurant, and then all of a sudden, they randomly stop using the one ingredient that made them so delicious, and they start using something else that's also pretty good, but tastes completely different from the original. Look, there's nothing wrong with mixing your game up. Final Fantasy's gone through like 78 different combat systems, and most of them are fun to play for JRPG fans. Where Paper Mario went wrong is that when it made a misstep that fans didn't really like, it doubled down on it. Sticker Star received a number of complaints about its battle system, but instead of going back to what worked, it just made modifications to it in Color Splash. Color Splash was a little better, but it was just an improvement on a system that everyone already decided they hated. It's like getting coal for Christmas, and then next year, you get polished coal for Christmas. So what was Origami King like compared to its predecessors? It's better. Instead of having to collect cards to use moves, you just have the moves, the way a game should be. There are special moves like Shiny Boots, Hurl Hammers that are temporary, but you don't need these to beat the game, and I never had to go out of my way to collect them. This made the gameplay infinitely more fun than Color Splash and Sticker Star. However, the combat system is nothing like the original two. Instead, you fight a lot of different enemies at once. Instead of 1 or 2, you're frequently fighting upwards of 8 or 10 or even 12 enemies, and each of your attacks will damage a certain number of squares that the enemies stand on along the battlefield. You have the opportunity to move the enemies around and line them up to try and optimize the amount of damage you do and the number of enemies you hit. It's not really a hard combat system to learn, and it's really engaging, at least a lot more engaging than traditional turn-based games. Bosses work a bit differently, as you can imagine. Bosses function like a board game of sorts, kind of like Chutes and Ladders, maybe? I don't really know. Mario essentially moves along this grid and follows the path that you set up. You want to set it up so he lands in a certain spot with a certain action. You can set up a path to focus on healing, attacking combos, or you can get certain items and switches pressed to set up for something later on in the fight. Each boss functions differently, and though it's the same gimmick for most boss fights, you get a good variety with each one. The boss fights were where this combat system really shined in my opinion. I found myself constantly having to decide how to use a turn efficiently in a way that no other Paper Mario game has. If nothing else, it requires more critical thinking than the other games in the series, which isn't really saying much, as the other games did not in fact require any critical thinking. Outside of the combat, it's pretty hard to say this is anything short of a quality Nintendo game. The characters are charming and have the same witty dialogue and personalities that you'd expect from a Paper Mario game. Olivia, your helper character, is a bit clueless, but never really annoyed me. You also meet other companions during the quest, some of whom may help you out in combat. It's not like the older Mario games where we have a partner and control them and level them up as you go, but it's close-ish. The story feels very Kirby-esque. Nothing real dark and serious, just a lighthearted plot about some evil king turning paper into origami. Though Origami Peach is slightly horrific, I will admit that. Just like most Paper Mario games, you travel to different destinations, trying to collect something from each one. It's like the crystal stars from Thousand Year Door or the paint stars from Color Splash. There are also a lot of different ways to interact with the world, from matching games hidden in the ground to a shuriken game very similar to the bow and arrow minigame from Ocarina of Time. Search long enough, and there's a ton of minigames and prizes to be won throughout the game. Now let's look at the other side of the Mario coin here. While a lot of this game is fun, a lot of it is also pretty tedious. This game has single-handedly made me hate celebrations that involve confetti. You throw confetti. Non-stop. The entire game. Why? I hated this in Color Splash with the paints, and it's no better here. You're just stopping and filling random holes, and while admittedly, it is satisfying to fill in the holes, it just feels like a time waster. I feel the same, though less extreme, with the toad collecting. There are toads scattered everywhere, in shells, in flowers disguised as bugs. You need to find and save as many as possible, and it's pretty close to being essential, seeing as how many of them are shopkeepers, hold upgrades, and have essential items you might need to progress the story. I don't mind finding toads, but some of them are just ridiculous. Like this area, where you just wander the grass, hoping you just bump into one of them hidden. I also wish this game had a better incentive for random encounters. Coins, and only coins, isn't enough to make me want to initiate random battles. Many encounters felt like it was just a waste of 5 minutes. If they're against traditional turn-based combats, then fine, don't use it, but why get rid of the experience point system? Not a huge bother, it's just strange. While I had fun playing this game, I was also disappointed. Not with the game so much, but with the fact that it's pretty much a nail in the coffin for the classic Mario RPG style. Gone are the days of classic turn-based, and in its place are these new combat systems. They're not bad, and maybe it's time for me to just, accept that Paper Mario is getting older. It's not that little franchise I remember. I love playing this game, but when I look at Thousand Year Door or Paper Mario 64 on my shelf, I just get kinda sad, remembering that the glory days are behind us. I see the game like I would a well-made Zelda first-person shooter game. It's good, and it's fun, and I'm sticking to that. But it doesn't feel like the Paper Mario I loved as a kid. When you put a franchise name on something, there are certain attributes that come to mind. Zelda is an open-world adventure game. That's why an FPS game, no matter how good, won't feel like that. For a lot of people, Paper Mario is a comical, lighthearted turn-based RPG. And when they change some of those core components, it's a hard thing for die-hard fans to get past. That doesn't make it bad, just a bit disappointing. If you're new to this franchise, you're definitely gonna love this game. It's innovative, clever, and witty. But if you're still stuck on the original 2 Paper Mario games, this one won't be any more satisfying than the previous entries. It's significantly better than Sticker Star and Color Splash, however, and I do give it props for coming up with a very fun and innovative combat system. Paper Mario Origami King gets 7 origami cranes out of 10.